Good morning. I'm Dwight Keene. I'm chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission. I'm joined this morning by fellow commissioners Susan Duffy and Commissioner Andrew French. At this time, I will call to order this meeting of the KCC on this Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. Commissioners, the first items up for our consideration this morning are 26 items on the consent agenda. It should be noted that I am recusing on item number 6, which involves docket number 23-CONS-3136-CPEN. That being said, Commissioners, I'll turn to each of you and ask if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I'll begin with Commissioner Duffy.
Good morning, everyone. I have no questions or comments.
Commissioner French.
No questions. I move approval of the consent agenda, noting Chair Keene's recusal on item number 6.
I second the motion, noting the recusal on number 6.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda in accordance with the stipulation of both the movement and the seconder. All those in favor, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. The first of 2 notice items this morning is docket number 23-EKCE-447-COM in the matter of the complaint against Evergy Kansas Central, Inc. by Jeff Bryant. This morning we have before us an order denying the complaint, and our presenter is our general counsel, Brian Fedodin. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. On November 1st, Mr. Bryant filed a formal complaint alleging that his Evergy bill spiked from approximately $70 to $92 in a single day when he used 12 kilowatts of electricity. On November 14th, Evergy filed a motion to dismiss, explaining that under the tariff that Mr. Bryant is on, he was charged a demand charge of $4.43 per kilowatt of billing demand over 5 kilowatts during that time period, and that the tariff specifically calls for such a demand charge. After reviewing the tariff, the Commission agrees that it provides for demand charge when a customer in Mr. Bryant's class uses over 5 kilowatts. Mr. Bryant never disputed that he exceeded the 5 kilowatt of demand during the time period. Therefore, this order denies Mr. Bryant's complaint. With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you for that overview, Brian. Let's see if there are any questions. I'll turn first to Commissioner Duffy.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner French.
No questions. I move approval of the order in this docket.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded, we approve the order in this docket. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The order is approved. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
The second notice item this morning involves docket number 23, pardon me, -TRAM-442-PEN. This is in the matter of the investigation of Bear Creek Ranch DBA Gressel Oilfield Service LLC of Peck, Kansas, regarding the violations of the motor carrier safety statutes, rules, and regulations, and the Commission's authority to impose penalties, sanctions, and/or the revocation of motor carrier authority. Before us this morning is a penalty order. I would note at the outset that I am recusing in this order. For a description of what the order consists of, we will turn to our Assistant Litigation Counsel, Hassan Latif. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, Commissioners. The penalty order before you arises out of compliance review of Bear Creek Ranch, DBA Gressel Oilfield Service, LLC, a private motor carrier which hauls machinery, large objects, liquids, gases, and chemicals operating out of Hayesville, Kansas. This investigation was conducted on September 9th by Special Investigator Doug Handy. During this investigation, the special investigator found several violations, and the order before you assesses penalties for 10 of those violations, resulting in $4,800 in total penalties. The violations included a $1,000 fine for failing to conduct a pre-employment inquiry into the Federal Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse on a driver, a $750 fine for failure to conduct periodic annual inspections on commercial motor vehicles, as well as several fines related to the company's compliance with hazardous materials regulations, including a failure to have a security plan in place, failure to require drivers to attend to hazmat training, and failure to maintain special markings on cargo tanks, as well as other violations related to the hauling of hazardous materials. Staff has worked with the carrier to resolve these issues and believe that the order appropriately penalizes them for the violations that were found during the review, and recommends approval of the order. Both myself and staff are available to stand for questions.
Thank you, Hassan, for that overview. Let's see if there are questions. I'll turn first to Commissioner Duffy.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner French.
No questions. I move approval of the order as described by Mr. Latif.
And I second the motion.
It's been moved to second. We approve the order in this docket. Is there any discussion? As noted at the outset of our discussion of this, I will be recusing from consideration of this docket. Hearing no further discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Two commissioners having voted in favor of the docket is approved. The order in this docket is approved. Thank you very much, Hassan. Next matter on our agenda this morning is a public hearing on motor carrier safety regulations. Our presenter here again will be Hassan Latif, KCC Litigation Counsel. At this time, I'm calling to order the public hearing on the proposed amendments to the motor carrier safety regulations, specifically involving KAR 82-4-1, -2A, -3, -3B, -3C, -3D, -3F, -3G, -3H, -3I, -3J, -3K, -3L, -3M, -3N, -3O, -20, -27, -30A, and -50. Kansas law requires that the commission hold a public hearing before it may adopt regulations. Our staff will provide a brief review of the proposed regulations, and then the commission will provide an opportunity for the public to submit either oral or written comments on the proposed regulation. May I have the appearance of counsel, please?
Good morning. This is Hassan Latif appearing on behalf of staff and the public generally.
Does the staff have a recommendation regarding notice?
Yes, pursuant to the Kansas Rules and Regulations Filing Act, a minimum 60-day public comment period is required before an agency may adopt permanent regulations. And on October 6th, 2022, commission staff had published in the Kansas Register notice of this public hearing, thereby exceeding the minimum 60-day requirement. Because publication of the notice in the Kansas Register constitutes notice to all parties affected by the regulations, the Rules and Regulations Filing Act does not require agencies to send notices to each party believed to be interested in the proposed regulation. Staff recommends that commission find that notice was proper and that it has jurisdiction to conduct this hearing in this time and place.
Thank you. Are there any objections to notice? Seeing that, I find that notice was proper and that the commission has jurisdiction to proceed with this hearing at this time. Accordingly, we're going to turn for the presentation and summary of the regulations to litigation counsel Hassan Latif. Hassan, please.
Thank you. I'm going to share my PowerPoint screen. Okay. So as the chair noted, we are here to discuss the proposed regulations that are being submitted to become permanent regulations, updating our Kansas motor carrier safety regulations. The purpose of the hearing is twofold: to provide an overview of the proposed regulations and to receive public comments. At this time, we did not have any registrants to make public comment, but we are going to hold the hearing so that the public hearing record can be noted. The proposed amendments update the regulations to the 2018 version of the federal Code of Regulations. When we began this round of updates at the end of 2019, the latest version available to adopt was the 2018 version of the regulations. These periodic updates are required to maintain federal grant funding for various motor carrier programs and also allow us to become more current than the previous versions, which were the 2015 versions that are previously adopted by the Commission and by the state of Kansas. I will discuss the more substantive changes in the batch of regulations, but as an overview, all the proposed regulations that we are proposing changes to include some changes, but those are largely changes in form and technical fixes. In the state of Kansas, our practice is to adopt the federal regulations on transportation matters by reference. So we have language in almost all these regulations stating that we adopt a specific federal regulation on a certain topic. And then we go through line by line with the regulation and take out the portions that do not apply to Kansas or that are beyond our jurisdiction. It's a very time-consuming process, but it doesn't necessarily change what regulations apply in Kansas. But it does allow us to stay in compliance with the requirement that we adopt more recent standards. I will now touch base on some of the specific. There are some specific substantive changes, which also are not necessarily drastic changes, but I'm going to go through those. The first one is in our definitions section. We add a definition of public motor carrier. This is to clarify that it's the same definition as a for-hire motor carrier, and those two terms are used interchangeably. For 8242A, in the authority of agents, we made a minor change that would allow the Highway Patrol to mark an out-of-service vehicle with a form other than a sticker. It now allows them to mark it with a form that is approved by the Highway Patrol. In 8243, in our exemptions regulation, we changed some of the language there to preserve exemptions for haulers carriers who are hauling propane winter heating fuel, or for commercial motor vehicles responding to a pipeline emergency. Those carriers remain exempt, and we wanted to make sure that that was enshrined in the regulation. For 8243F, this is where we adopt many of the federal definitions. This year, we at the request of the FMCSA, we removed we had taken some regulations out of the federal adoption previously, and now we simply just adopt the federal versions of those definitions. And these are common words such as conviction or exempt motor carrier. Previously, those were defined in our statute and they had been taken out. So now we formally are just adopting the federal version. 82427, which involves applications for certificate of convenience and necessity and certificates of public service. It now adopts language requiring applicants to attend a safety seminar. There are regulations that are before and after this that have the language about attending a safety seminar, but this one regulation didn't have that language in it. And so to maintain consistency, we added the language here. And finally, 82430A, this is this regulation that deals with our UCR registration. This is one of our more major changes, is that we are adopting the 2023 UCR fee schedule. Each year, the UCR fees have reduced as more carriers are paying into the fund. And so because of the increased number of people who are paying UCR fees, they're able to reduce the fees each year. And that happened again this year. So the fees have gone down and we're adopting the lower fee schedule going into 2023. We will now enter the public comment portion of the meeting. As I mentioned before, there are no registrants who have decided to make a public comment, and from checking with PACP, we did not receive any written comments on these regulations as well. So my understanding is that we won't have any comments. And with that, I end my presentation and turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Hassan. We want to thank those who may be attending this hearing for doing so. This hearing is an important step in our process of amending our regulations, and we look forward to what you have to say. As Hassan indicated, To date, there are no registrants who wish to make comments for this public hearing. If there's anyone present today who wishes to comment, please use the hand wave function in Zoom, and we will recognize you for comment. I see no indications of that. Is there anyone else who wishes to make comment? I hear nothing in that order either. Very well, this concludes our public hearing for this regulation, and we thank all of you for coming. Commissioners, this concludes the agenda for our, this concludes all the items on our agenda for today. If, unless you have anything further you care to take up, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Take care.